Today, we're talking about something that's moving fast and shaking up the executive suite. This is the rise of the Chief AI Officer, or CAIO. This isn't a rebranded tech role. It's a strategic function that's reshaping how organizations think about value, governance, and capability. So in this episode, we'll explore the top 10 things you need to know about this emerging role and what it means for business analysis.
The Better Business Analysis Institute
presents the Better Business Analyst Podcast with
Benjamen Walsh.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be counting down the 10 things you need to know about the Chief AI role, which is becoming standard across tech industry, starting in Silicon Valley, but going across the world now. And I'm going to explain what this means to BA. So number one is, what is the rise of the CAIO role? AI is no longer just R&D or IT concern. And we've talked about the rise of AI generally on this podcast before. But AI is now impacting every function, from HR to management to marketing to ops. That's why the CAIO role is now emerging as a key player, actually with a seat at the table at the C-suite. Gartner predicts that by 2025, so that's now, half of CIOs who haven't adopted AI will be seen as risks to the business. Think about that. The CIO may become a risk because they don't have an AI strategy. AI adoption is now a leadership issue. And this role provides vision, accountability, alignment, and helps organization avoid fragmentation and ungoverned AI sprawl, which will happen, which is the whole concept of a CIO for information. But now with AI and speeding that up, it's actually becoming a risk. There's an example here. If you take Mufasa, who was the co-founder of DeepMind, now at Microsoft, he is the enterprise vice president of AI. That's the kind of appointment that sends a message. AI leadership is board level. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the Chief Information Officer role versus the Chief Information Officer role versus the Chief Technology Officer role. Okay, so the CAIO role, the CIO role, and the CTO role. Bit of a mouthful. And you could ask the question, isn't AI something that the CIO and the CTO should be doing? Well, not quite, because CIOs typically manage infrastructure as a whole and service delivery. And CTOs, almost IT managers, often focus on the technical architecture and innovation. So the delivery teams or the development team and maybe the technical architecture. Now, the Chief AI Officer, on the other hand, lives in the middle of strategy, ethics 100%, product and data science. Okay, so where we talked about the fact you could have a chief data steward in the organization, they're not C-suite, but this person could well be who the chief data officer reports to. Okay, so think about it in terms of structure all the way down. And this role would connect what can we do with AI with what should we do with AI, and ensures that AI adds value across the enterprise, not just silos. So it's got to be, again, exec. They're not technical experts. They are cross-functional leaders with influence over data policy, privacy, and even customer experience. So my view here, and this is just a take, is it would give life to the data role, which is starting to develop more, and there aren't really chief data stewards, not really, maybe head of data And this would give them a C-suite level, so separate to the digital area, because its data is across the organization. And what you could also do is potentially having all the data people report up there is maybe BAs would report in there too, or help get more uplifted and report to this AI value officer, kind of automation AI value officer. And that person there is separate to the kind of nuts and bolts of IT in current state. And what would this chief AI officer actually do? That's number 3. Well, they would define the organization's AI strategy, which, as we talk about, changes every single day at the moment. They would set policies for responsible use. They would lead vendor selection and partnerships. They would guide internal capability building. And they would oversee data governance as well as maybe the data insights. So maybe a chief AI officer at a large bank might implement a policy requiring audit trail for every AI-generated recommendation and lending decisions. So that would ensure traceability, compliance. It's not just something that the lending team has put in. It's actually making sure we've got accountability. So the role is visionary, it's practical, and it balances strategy and daily operations. And the reason I like talking about that is that kind of relates to what we do here as BAs. Number 4 is that there is a strategic shift to AI first thinking, like there was with products, but AI is much more than just product. So what I mean by this is it's more than just layering AI on top of old processes. The real shift is going to be from we use AI to we are AI enabled. So let's talk about our friend, the CEO of Microsoft here, Satya. And he would say that every business process will be reinvented with AI. That means rethinking the outcome you want first, then designing the process backwards with AI in mind. Again, BAs can fit into that. It's going to be a cultural and capability shift. A good chief AI officer brings the mindset, not just the models. And then let's drop into one of the problems we're experiencing across the world right now with AI and DeepMind and some of the stuff that Google's just put out is ethics. So ethics in the stewardship and risk, I've seen it in the data space and my consultancy roles of late. And with great power comes, well, you know, the rest. And the chief AI officer will be the ethical anchor in the room. Doesn't really fit anywhere at the moment, right? Kind of HR, people capability, maybe on behalf of the employees, maybe IT, but this chief AI officer has to think about ethics. They ask, should we automate this? What happens if we get it wrong? Should we get rid of all these people and replace them by robots, AIs? What's the unintended consequence of this decision? I mean, Italy has banned ChatGPT. It's a wake-up call because they've said without clear oversight, AI may breach policy, fairness, and trust. And the chief AI officer would bring internal frameworks to ensure that AI doesn't cross those ethical boundaries or regulatory lines, and then whole countries won't regulate against it. It requires leadership. And again, C-suite board level. Number 6 is that AI governance is not optional at all. So as opposed to data governance, which is done not very well, but it's a prerequisite almost for AI governance, but this leads it from top down. Regulators are watching. The EU AI Act and the US AI Bill of Rights are coming into force soon, and companies need someone who can translate that into internal policy. Who will that be? The chief information officer? Maybe, but AI isn't just information. It's making recommendations. So it involves a little bit of HR, involves a little bit of technology. So it could involve marketing, research, and I can do all those things. So this is why this role the chief AI officer may be best placed, a new role. They can help define standards like model interoperability, testing protocols, audit procedures. It's not just about building great models for your organization, and everyone will need their own AI model, their own IP. They will. It's about ensuring that those models are fair, safe, and fit for purpose and standardized to your organization. Number 7 is that training and reskilling is going to be a mandate of this role. There's a quote here that says, "We are all AI workers now." And that's true. The role that we're talking about can lead internal AI upskilling programs. They can help everyone from customer service reps to senior management understand how to use it, question, collaborate. Again, BAs will be at the front face of that. I actually got a message from my ex-boss from Hamilton, Damon, who was asking me what I thought about BAs leading the charge and product managers leading the charge in the space. And I have to agree with them. I think they are the right roles. But be aware, this isn't technical training. It's about AI literacy across the organization. You would maybe imagine onboarding new hires and teaching them prompt engineering alongside how to use email and your email signature. Maybe it's just like, these are the prompts we use. And this is our AI model, and we use Copilot, and it's all safe, and this is how we use it. This is what we don't do, and we don't, paste it here, just like data privacy and security. And this is how we use it, and it makes you do your job better. It adds more value without you spending time doing manual tasks. Now, number 8 is that data, models, and business value. So a big part of what I see as the chief AI officer's role will be making sure that AI investments actually create value. Now, it's easy to fall into model obsession, but this role can keep their eye on outcomes, right? So in Netflix, if you take that example, they use AI for recommendations, but they also optimize it across filming locations. They use it to optimize that. They use it to do production schedules. They do use it for quite a lot of things. So it's not just the external facing recommendations, but they use it internally. The question they keep asking is, how does this model change our behavior or improve decision-making? And that's really good questions to ask yourself. Number 9 is that this chief AI officer role needs to wrap around AI vendor strategy. This is really important. It's not the procurement team. It's not really a typical AI role, IT role. Every organization is facing a build versus buy dilemma right now. And I feel like you're pushed down the buy because of the compute power. You have to use a base system from Microsoft, OpenAI, whatever it is. You have to make that decision, and then you have to build a model on top of those or have multi-AI strategies. Should we use OpenAI, the APIs? Should we build our own LLM, which is the large language model? Yes, you probably do if you've got IP. Do we go open source or proprietary? Are we going to be locked in? They're going to have all our information. They're going to be able to make insights about it. Which vendors are secure, which are ethical, which are aligned with our business model. There's a whole adage here in New Zealand and Wellington. We have the top 4 that you have all around the world, the KPMGs, Deloitte, and so forth. And they own your business. Now, can you imagine if you got them in and they were using AI and feeding in your business information? They would know everything about your business, and they would have a competitive advantage to pitch for everything. So you've got to be careful about who you share that with. And that's all part of this commercial case. I guess you need to choose the vendor like you're choosing a surgeon, not a barrister. There's a quote out there. This isn't casual procurement. It's critical infrastructure. And let's finish up with what this means for business analysts. Well, everything. AI is becoming embedded in every business operation. Personal operations, I use it 3 or 4 times a day. We can become the translators between business need and AI capability. We're not going to be expected to train models, but we need to understand the logic, the inputs, the risks, the outcomes, our job. BAs will likely be allies to this role, and I would think direct reports would be even better. And if you're thinking long-term, maybe one day you could become a chief AI officer yourself. That's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week.